the artifacts which were looted in the 19th century. In the 19th century, the war, there was laws, and the looting of war was legal. Maybe it's not moral, but it's legal. No, it is looting, yes. Part of it was looting.
But in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, the French are looking around looking for coups to push these guys out. Why? They want to renew the old contracts. This is business. Politics is a prostitute of economics. So you talk about politics, they're talking about money and business, treaties, trade agreements, and whoever is in power must protect these trade agreements.
In 1958 and 1961, France did something absolutely horrible. The 14 countries which were formerly, but still colonized by the French, they were forced to sign a document that they called the Pact.
Some African countries that were colonized by France are still paying them till date. And that is very ridiculous. Welcome to the Finance Podcast, and it's Finance with Abbas. On today's episode, we'll be looking at some African countries that are being colonized by France and how the Frenchmen deceived them to sign a deal that has left them in debt till today. Before I continue, do well to like, do well to share, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tali Finance Podcast, for more finance content from us. Let's dive right in. The first thing the Frenchman did was to make Africans believe that because they brought in schools, they brought in hospitals, and they brought in a lot of transformation, that they have to pay till the very day that they die. Let's watch this video.
14 African countries, 70 years after independence. It's called the CFA franc system, and it's one of the most shocking examples of modern financial control. Here's how it works. Countries like Burkina Faso, Mali, and Senegal must deposit 50% of their foreign reserves in the French treasury. That means half their national wealth sits in Paris, not their own capitals. France also maintains the right to intervene militarily and gets first priority on all natural resources and government contracts. Compare this to Nigeria, which broke free from British monetary control immediately after independence in 1960. While Nigeria prints its own naira and controls its oil revenues, Francophone neighbors need France's permission for major economic decisions.
They succeeded in brainwashing Africans. As such, they colonized them even after their independence.
The French said, well, you see, we built a few schools, a few roads, a few hospitals, taught you about the fork and knife and sitting on a table and eating with utensils. We're going to call that the colonial debt. For that you shall pay to perpetuity. In addition, you will deposit 85% of your bank reserves, the Minister of Finance, the French Minister of Finance. Collectively, the Minister of Finance, the French Minister of Finance will take all your deposits. The French Minister will invest that money in the French Stock Exchange under the French name. You may or may not know the returns. Today, France is taking out of Africa, Francophone Africa, over $500 billion.
France colonized 14 African countries. Few of them broke free. Let's start with Algeria, the jewel of the crown. France extracted massive amounts of oil and gas from Algeria, and they transported it to their country. All the reserves of oil and gas for Algeria are in France. They even went as far as using Algeria's Sahara Desert as a place for their nuclear testing. Mind you, till date, there are still legacies of radiation on the Sahara Desert.
Did your teacher ever teach you about the untold story of Algeria? No? Mine didn't either, so let's talk about it. So here's the deal. France colonized Algeria in 1830 and they stayed for 130 years. And trust me, they weren't there to make friends. By colonize, I mean they took over everything. Land, resources, and of course they treated Algerians like second-class citizens. But as you'd expect, the Algerians weren't happy about this, so of course they fought back. But France didn't just fight them back. They committed a mass genocide of over 2 million Algerians, including women, children, and men, burning down villages, entire communities, and ruining families. This wasn't just a one-off battle, it lasted over 100 years. And here's the wildest part. While all this was happening, the French were shouting to the world about liberty, equality, and freedom.
Funny says, who colonized Algeria before France? HB says, never forget and never forgive. The next country, Senegal and Ivory Coast. They transformed them into monocrop economies. Senegal was forced to go into peanut production while Ivory Coast became the world's cocoa farm. They only grew what France commanded them to grow in their farmlands. Mali and Burkina Faso, gold and cotton were the major things that they got from these two countries. Till this day, Mali is still one of Africa's top producers of gold. Yet, the reserves of Mali's gold is being found in France, and it has been tied historically to the French interest. They took a lot of gold from Burkina Faso too, but as at today, Burkina Faso is saying no, Madagascar is saying no, Guinea is saying no, Chad is saying no. They are saying no more, and they have made great changes.
Are taking bold steps to rid themselves of lingering effects of colonialism. Now, on Wednesday, Mali joined Burkina Faso and Niger in renaming streets and squares in its capital, Bamako, removing French colonial names. Now, nearly 25 locations, including boulevards, squares, and public institutions, were renamed.
Duncan says, what does it mean economically? You can remove all French names, but you still remain stagnant economically. Frank Donkey's Venture says, I don't see them surviving the danger ahead of them.
Ending up, he is saying the natural resources in Burkina Faso, they belong to the people of Burkina Faso. Niger is doing the same thing. Mali is doing the same thing. Every leader must look at what's happening in the Sahel nations to say, like anybody else, you must take care of your people. You have your natural resources. You have everything you need to take care of your people. Why do you continue to be beggars? Look at what is being brought in by not only USAID, but all the NGOs in your country.
Now, when they saw that these countries were so desperate for their independence, they put a grip on them and made them sign a deal that came with a secret plan. Now, the most painful part is they took most of Africa's artifacts. By artifacts, I mean our sculptures, our valuable items, and they called it looting. They said they were not stealing, they were just keeping it in the museum. Us, how? Let's watch this video.
They belong to the museums where they are now, because there are laws, and if even for the artifacts which were looted in the 19th century, the war, there was laws, and the looting of war was legal. Maybe it's not moral, but it's legal. And if you want to come back on this, why don't you come back 19th century, 17th century, 16th century? You cannot stop. You don't know where to stop.
At the time, they weren't independent countries.
Yes.
So, of course, the colonial power can decide to take stuff. I mean, it is looting, isn't it?
No. It's
Bronze AI say, don't worry, we will loot all your artifacts. Just wait, you'll see tables will turn. Kafra says, our history is all they have. We are supposed to see their white ancient kings, not Africans. They're using our own artifacts to make billions in their country, and this is not proper. Now, away from that, Professor James dropped a bombshell that has left everybody wondering. The Europeans said they came to build civilization in Africa, but they never built it.
Civilization. Show me one. That's the only question I've had. Show me a European civilization. Rome was not a civilization. Greece was not a civilization. You don't know a day in the history of Greece where there wasn't a war. You don't know a day in the history of Rome and there wasn't a war. Those are not civilization. Those are death cults, war culture. They're not building anything. They're stealing from other people.
Asiam says France has the largest gold reserve but does not have a single mine. Italy is the most famous coffee country but does not have a single field. England is the most famous tea country but does not have a single tree. What are we talking about here? The bitter truth is some African countries cannot gain their total independence, not because they do not want to get it, because of the debt and the deals that they sign without knowing about the secret price that came with signing the deal. And so they've been left in perpetual debt. Let's watch this video.
If Africa could come together, if the entire continent could come together. But our reality is, because of the stronghold that France has on Africa, France can destabilize any of its former colonies with the push of a button. So the reality is trying to push back against France, it's mission impossible at this time, which is why we are very pleased that finally the African heads of states were able to come together and agreed on what we are calling the African Continental Free Trade Area. You got to understand, back in 1963, when our Pan-African leaders came together and created the Organization of African Unity. They were trying to undo the damage done by the Berlin Conference. But unfortunately, when they went to Addis Ababa, they were divided. Had the Casablanca Group won in 1963, Africa would be in a very different place because all these borders would have been eliminated back then.
Casablanca Group 1961 wanted a strong united Africa that broke completely from colonial control. Morocco, Ghana, Egypt, Algeria, and Mali. Their goal was African unity, ending colonialism, supporting liberation movement, and keeping Africa independent from Western and Soviet control. Senegal and others weren't in it. They backed the Monrovian Group, which chose slow cooperation instead of radical unity. We still have time to be united. Adorn says it's not impossible. Burkina Faso has already done it. Wako says, I think, first, Africans as a whole has to start addressing the issue of how they are going to lead itself, especially from the presidential candidate, because as for me, that's the biggest reason it's difficult to unite. Those who are the president from their countries understand they're going to lose their seats. That means their big salaries. I'm in to be corrected if need to be, as my mother, speaking pure truth. Thank you. As France is beginning to lose its grip on the Sahel, this is time for the Sahel to look out for coups. Do well to like, do well to share, do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Solid Finance Podcast, for more finance content like this. See you on the next one.